Hi, I can't believe you're watching my video. Thank you so much for being here. My name is Anna. I'm an architect, but I also like making art whenever I can, and apparently pretending that I know what I'm doing. So I'm actually very curious whether you got disappointed the second I started talking. Because I feel like there are two types of painting time-lapse videos. One, the silent kind with calm, inspirational music, basically the type of music that makes you want to take a nap. And two, the ones with voiceovers, where the artist rambles about paint supplies and kinda expects you to follow along. Let me know in the comments which ones you like better, because I couldn't decide. So today you're getting both. Personally, I love watching any type of time-lapse videos. I watch them for the painting part, obviously. I love seeing when a blank page turns into something with depth and volume. I sometimes watch them before bed, so the calm music is appropriate. But I also like watching them when I'm doing something creative myself. They put me into a creative mood. And in those cases, I really appreciate it when an artist talks to me. It makes me feel like I'm hanging out with a buddy and we're chatting about things that we both care about while making art together. I kind of love imagining that I have art friends with whom I meet up to paint. It's just such a cozy thought. In case you're wondering, my accent is Russian. I grew up in Russia and went to art school there, where they basically told us watercolor is the hardest medium, good luck. I suspect that it has to do with the fact that watercolors are transparent and mistakes can't be easily covered up. The other challenge is that you can't paint lighter colors over darker colors, like with most other paints. So if you have something light in front of something dark, you really need to plan for it in advance. And also, overworking watercolors is easier than breathing. I'm sure you'll see plenty of it in this painting. Anyway, I'm not pretending to be good at this, but I love watercolors. So that has to count for something, right? My favorite thing about watercolors is that they flow and mix on their own, however they want, when they're wet. When colors mix by themselves on the page, that's just magic. So my biggest challenge is keeping it wet. That didn't sound right, but you know what I mean. I think that this reference picture looks like a rainbow. It has red, orange, yellow, green, blue, and purple. I actually really like how colorful it is. It looks like Skittles. And I will try my best to keep the colors bright and clean. And as always, I'm using a limited palette of 5 colors. I mentioned it before, but I love how a limited palette simplifies the logistics. And it's just so much easier to decide what color to use when you have fewer options. And because I'm sure you're dying to know, the sheet of paper that I'm using is letter-sized, 8.5 by 11. There, I'm just trying to be completely transparent. This tiny little painting actually took me about 3 hours, which is wild because I honestly thought I would be done in half the time. I did it over 2 days just because 3 hours of painting is not something I can find in one day. Not sure why it took so long. Maybe it's because the image has so many elements. But next time I will try to do something simpler. Hey, how about a potato? Would you watch that? The trick with watercolors is not to mix too many colors, or you will get mud, and not to fuss over every little detail. But of course, the closer you get to the foreground, the more you want to fuss. There's more contrast and more going on in the foreground. I'm painting roughly from the background to the foreground, and roughly from top to bottom. It's just easier this way to keep my hand from smudging the wet paint. but you should generally go from light to dark. Except all the rules usually go out of the window once you start painting. Okay, so my least favorite part is those orange plants in the middle. But they're getting overworked, so I'm just going to try to fix them once they dry. And I think the tree canopies need to get a bit darker to balance the shadow from the boat in the opposite corner. What else? I think the shape of the boat could get fixed a bit. And this mud in the foreground looks kind of muddy. Maybe just needs some detail. Otherwise, I think I'm almost done. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe and please let me know in the comments what you thought of the format of this video. Alright, see you next time. Bye!